Now see, visualize it. Can you see yourself winning? Okay, 3, 2, 1, yeah.
Go on, Griffin! Oh, no!
Come on,
Griffin!
Welcome to Shorecliff Surf Night. I'm David Hennings. I'm the Spanish teacher and surf coach at Shorecliff Middle School. And over my career, I've had the pleasure of having every one of these students on campus. And even Cole was just for that was like a short little stint, right? But everyone else in my Spanish class, I remember Crosby did this really cool rap one time in Spanish in my class. So. Anyways, we're glad they're here. We have some questions, some discussion. These are all guys that I've known for a long, long time. When I was 21 years old and not sure what I was going to do with my life, I met this guy, Mitch Colapinto. Round of applause for Mitch back here. Anyways, I met Mitch Colapinto, and he said, Dave, you got to be a teacher. And he had this little guy, 1 year old, named Griffin. And Mitch kind of took him under my wing. He hired me to work at his surf camp and taught me how to be a teacher. I went to his classroom. And so anyways, it's been fun from him mentoring me and then having his boys in my class. It's been really neat. So it's kind of fun to see it come full circle. Cade was another former student. And Cole, he was here for 2 weeks, he said, right? Yeah. He was on the 2-week track, and then he went off to be a professional soccer player. So, and so here's kind of the first thing I'm thinking about. You know, like Cade, I work with a lot through middle school. You always loved surfing. You were doing great in the amateur contest. You probably wanted to be a pro surfer. But as you first hit the QS, I don't think you were incredibly successful at first. At what point did it go from, I love surfing, I'm doing all right, to where, wow, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to be a pro surfer. I'm going to make the world tour. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, it was always my goal to be on the world tour, but obviously, you go through, your struggles. I mean, I first started the QS, I wasn't really, making heats, but, at the same time, you don't let it, get you discouraged because you're, so young, and just, learning. And, yeah, through those, early years, it was, really good because you have the junior tour and all that to learn, and you just keep learning over the years, and you continue to grow. And then I think it was probably my third year doing the juniors where I was well, I could really do this, which was really cool.
Was there a single event where you're okay?
I think it was just when I started doing good, and I was whoa, okay. Yeah, and I was whoa, okay, yeah, I'm doing good now.
Cade would wax me every event when we were younger.
Like amateur style?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think, let's see, Cade, how much older are you than Crosby?
I'm younger than Crosby.
You're younger than Crosby? Okay.
Yeah. About a year, I think.
Okay, now I'll take the question then, Nicole. So when you just kind of, I remember Cole was this little guy with the fro, and now he's like a man-child with a cheetah head, so.
Very different, yeah.
Walk us through that from, soccer to surfing to now I'm on the world tour. And hold the mic right up to your mouth, yeah.
I kind of grew up playing every sport under the sun, and I didn't really fall in love with surfing until I was probably 12 or 13. And slowly every other sport kind of faded out. And yeah, I went on the QS pretty early. I was 15 and started traveling the world when I was 16, I think. And yeah, I just, there's a lot of ups and downs, and it's not you realize really hard, it's or really early on, it's not that easy, and you got a lot of stuff ahead of you, and, but yeah, just making sure you have fun and stick with it. Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, is just having fun. Kinda.
So I have a question then. Yeah, because remember when Griff was a little guy, you did the competitive swimming, right? And Cade, you played a lot of sports. It was pretty much surfing from the beginning, but Cole, you've got this unique where you played all these other sports. How do you feel like that has helped you or motivated you, and how did you switch to surfing full-time as a profession?
Yeah, it was, I think playing all those sports kind of like helped me kind of become an athlete more than a surfer. And because I'm like such a big guy, I feel like that was super important to play all those different sports and kind of just like fill into my body. But yeah, I think it just teaches you discipline and hard work and, you know, having a good team around you. So you learn a lot of lessons like playing different sports and being around people and kind of just, you know, take what you can and like learn from it.
Good stuff. Now, Crosby, take us through that because, you know, your brother's now been on the tour for a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, Griffin's such a good role model for all of us. So just kind of looking at what he was doing to what I was doing, and I noticed that he took the mental side of things to a whole nother level, and I kind of wasn't really too into it. And then I saw it working so much, and I was like, I gotta start working on my mind because my surfing I knew was there, but I knew that my mental was kind of holding me back. So once I kind of started working on my mind and kind of going inside, like seeing who I was and how I functioned and what worked well for me, I feel like that's when I kind of started to click and started to realize how I surf my best and when I surf my best.
Yes, and I've talked to other athletes who have said the same thing where, you know, at your level, let's say the top 20 or 30 guys that are looking to qualify, everyone's surfing is there, I think it's safe to say. But the athletes that make it are the ones who are also working on their mental state, right? So when you say work on your mind, like what are those things that you put into practice that took you from just being a ripping surfer to a ripping surfer who's now on the world tour?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it was kind of just like being aware of my thoughts, and because a lot of times I'd be surfing and I'd be like criticizing myself and not even really realizing it. And you know, like thoughts are so important because they like really take a toll on you. So just trying to really notice my thoughts and finding the right people to hang around. And obviously everyone that we hang around is so amazing, and San Clemente is such an amazing place for positivity. So I think just, yeah, I think being aware of my thoughts and just being able to notice the bad ones and which ones are good, and just, yeah, I think.
Yeah, incredible. Like taking those, you have, you know, sometimes you even have those, like subconsciously, you have those negative thoughts or those angry thoughts or that self-doubt. And so just be aware of what's going on upstairs. So kind of along those lines, I'm going to take over to Griffin now. And I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this yet. So as I watch you through the tour this last year, I've always been impressed with your ability to keep it positive. And I knew there were times when, you know, the world or social media, they want to take it negative, right? I mean, there's just an onslaught of negativity. So one example, I'm going to bring it up and kind of get your thoughts on how you work this. I remember after your win at the Surf Ranch Pro, obviously we were super stoked. You ripped, but you saw after that like this, like civil war start. You know, this onslaught of negativity. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? And you know, I know the Colapintos for a long time, and I want to say genuinely, when they're positive, just they're positive people, right? They've had a huge impact on me. So I know you're inside. I know you're positive, but I was just looking back at one of your social media posts. It was after that win. I don't know if you think you said a lot about the win. And you came, and I think it was a picture of you and Italo, and your first line in the social media post was, "We're all human beings." And then you went on, and you very eloquently went through kind of your thoughts and struggles, and you took this thing that was this real conflict and a lot of anger, and you, by finding common ground as everyone being human beings and trying to progress, you totally changed the dialogue in that. And I was just looking back, I mean, that post had thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of likes and thousands of comments that were so positive from people of all different nations and different languages. How did you formulate that, or what were you thinking? I mean, you probably want to be like, you know, screw you guys, right? I won the contest. I mean, that's what some people would have done. But what was your mental process of taking something that could have been super negative and turning it into a positive?
Yeah, that was definitely a pretty crazy moment for me. And I actually had gone through the same thing the year before. after I won the El Salvador contest, and then went straight to Brazil, and it was the same thing. Like they were doing the same thing. They were pissed about the scoring and all that stuff, and I think, yeah, I was just kind of like trying to look at it in a way from like everyone's point of view, and like try and really see like from the other side, and just kind of realizing that, you know, those guys over there that grew up in Brazil, it's such a different culture than like what we've grown up here. So it's like we're all coming from like different backgrounds, and like, you know, even like the way we're raised by our parents, it's like it all matters so much, and like the way we view the world and we view certain things. So it's like, and surfing's such a subjective sport with judging and stuff. So it's hard to like really like put it down to anything with when people are saying a bunch of stuff. You can't really like take it personal, you know? It's like, it's just that person's opinion. And at the end of the day, like, I've also thought about, or one of my mentors told me this, that like 99% of the time, if someone's like saying something to you that's negative or mean or to put you down, it's like their own issues that they're going through internally. And so it has nothing to do with you. They're just like projecting that onto you. And so to really just kind of like remember that, and you know, just try and like give the love, and like show that like I'm not gonna, you know, be pissed at you guys for making me feel shitty, or like, sorry for the cuss word, but making me feel bad. You know, like yeah, there's definitely sides of me that's pissed, but then like there's another side that has to kind of like talk to that side of me, and like kind of figure out how the positive side can take over, and that's where like the journaling comes in, you know?
Yeah, let's move to that. So here's the next thing. I think this goes back to the journal. So part of sports, you know, we have a lot of, so let's see, we have some kids from Bernice Air Middle School. Where are Bernice Air kids out there? Nice. All right, we have some kids from Shortcliffe. Where are Shortcliffe kids out there? Nice, okay. Well, we're stoked you're all here. So anyways, one thing we all deal with is, in sports and athletics, is losing, right? There's times when we lose. It could be the first round. It could be in a final. It could be something that determines whether we make the World Tour or not. So I want to talk, we'll go around the horn here, but starting with you, Cole. You lost a heat. What do you do? How do you deal with that loss?
Yeah, it's easier said than done, and it's 2 years ago I tied in the U.S. Open, and that heat, and I lost the heat, and that heat actually determined whether I would have qualified or not. And yeah, so it's really hard, and I just think trying to learn as much as you can when you lose, and really just kind of sit down with yourself and watch your thoughts, like the guys were saying. For me, this year especially, I found it super helpful to like I've gone through like 6 of these journals now, and I journal every day, and just writing like the good, the bad, everything on your mind, and kind of thoughts like you want to get out of your head that may have been bugging you, just put on paper, and then you can kind of forget about it, learn from it, and move on. But yeah, and then the other thing is just like accepting failure, like it's part of life, and it happens. Like I have a quote tattooed on me. It says, "Ever tried, ever failed. No matter, try again, fail better." And like you're gonna fail your whole life, so as long as you learn from it and fail better, it's like moving steps up, and that's about it.
Yeah. Do any of you guys have a loss? So I'm thinking, like, I remember I've had some kids over the years, you know, 6th grade, the start of surf team, I've had some kids just totally choke in their first heats, right? I'm always like, it's okay, you know. But for them, you know, for an 11 or 12-year-old mind, that's a really big deal. Has there been like a loss that was maybe your toughest, or that you learned from the most, or like a loss where you made a mistake and you learned from it and then you went back and you succeeded? Anywhere in your career?
Yeah, actually this year that was like the hardest loss I've ever had, probably, because I had like 2 events in a row that I did like really good at, and went to the U.S. Open, which was at home, obviously, and lost first round there, like probably feeling the best like I've ever felt for an event. And I really like took that like really hard. And the next day, actually, like I wrote down like exactly how I was feeling, which like getting out all those feelings was like the best thing I think I could have done, because I was able to like kind of like let it go, you know. And then like these guys are such big influences on me, you know, like they're like taught me like, oh, if you like can write it down, it's like way easier to get out of your head. So after that, I was able to like go down and like support these guys throughout the event and like really like be there for them without it like dragging along, you know?
Fantastic. Anyone else have like a real good losing story? Or maybe a time when you lost bad, like lost. Cole's got something good. Also, while we're at it, we were talking before, who would like to see Dane and Cole arm wrestle?
Kane might be actually.
Is he too gnarly or no? Is he manageable? Left-handed? What about left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
Oh. Well, right-handed then.
I'm down, but if he's over, it's all good.
Maybe after. We'll have a showdown. All right, so Cole's got a good losing story.
No, yeah, it's nothing crazy, but I was coming off like the best I'd ever done on the regional tour, and yeah, I just won my first event in like 7 years and qualified again for the Challengers. Didn't lose before the quarters, like 3 events in a row, so I was feeling really good. Preparation was everything. Everything was on point. I went into snapper, which is like, to me, the best wave on the Challengers, thinking, okay, well, this is my year. Like, I'm coming in hot, and went into snapper and surfed like the absolute worst heat of my life. Burned Kolohe even on a wave. And yeah, I just like had a shocker and kind of like sat down myself after, and I was like, this can't happen again. Like, I was having all these thoughts of like the year before where I didn't make a heat, and I'm like, is this really gonna happen? Like, I'm not gonna make a heat all year, just cause yeah, I went from like such a high to such a low. But I just sat down with myself, wrote everything out, how I was feeling. I was angry, frustrated, and then just writing everything I was mad about kind of let me like learn about it, forget about it. And then I went into Sydney and had the best event of my life and won. So it's just crazy. Like, I went from like such a high to such a low, but then I was able to like control myself in the low and just kind of move on with my life and enjoy the moment. So
good insight. Okay, so Griff, I have another question for you. So I want to talk a little about, we haven't talked about this either. I actually was going to ask you if it's okay if I ask you about this. Let's talk about the end of can we talk about the Final Five? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was a really unique thing. We never seen anything like that where we had someone from our hometown in the Final Five, massive buildup, right? You were feeling pretty good. But so my question is this. Okay, 2 questions. I mean, you're a genuine person. Were there times when you had to like almost fake that you were more stoked and feeling good? Were the nerves there? Like how? Do you see what I'm saying? Just, I mean, you don't mind me asking you that, right?
No, I don't
Okay, we've known each other for since birth, right? So at least since he was born. And just so you know, one quick, when Griffin was this little kid, so when I was working at the surf camp, 1 year old, Griffin would come down, 2 years old. By the time he was 3, he was all day at the beach with us. And Mitch and I were pulling kids on soft tops out of rip currents all day. So Griffin had your cousin would come down and babysit you. But we would have these skimboarding contests. And your other cousin, Jake, we would host them, and we'd play like these hip-hop beats, and we'd be like rapping commentators. We'd be like, all right, Griffin's up. And he was 3, 4, 5. By the time he was 6, he's by far way better than anybody. But we didn't want him to win because he wanted the kids who paid for the camp to win the contest, right? So Griff would go do a big air and be like, oh, he gets a 4.5. He's like, what? Come on. And then like somebody's just learning, they roll down from Talega, and it's like, they get a 4.7. And Griff's like, come on, what do I got to do? And by the end, he needed like a 7 to win. He'd do like a triple backflip, like, Griffin gets a 6.9. And that's when I really saw like this guy, he's happy go, but he wants to win. And then you do a thing with you and your brother and your dad, and you almost killing each other to win these games. So I know the competitive drive's in there. But going back to my question, so, I mean, I know you wanted to win. You had visualized it. We had planned. Just being there was meeting your goal, but want to walk us through that kind of that mental game, what you think worked, what went wrong, hopefully next year you're in the same scenario, what you're going to do different?
Yeah, it was a crazy time. I mean, the town was revved up for sure, which was insane. Like, it felt amazing to feel all the support. And yeah, I've got he's this guy that I've been working with this last year. His name's Troy, but he's kind of like my psychologist in a way. Like, we can just talk about life and things, but we were talking a lot about like the Final Five. We were prepping like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month out, and kind of just like how I was going to approach the whole thing and like the person I wanted to be, and like I knew kind of what was coming and what it was going to be like, and I really just kind of honed in on wanting to just be like super friendly with everyone that supported me, and be able to just like enjoy the whole process of the whole thing, because it's so special to have it in San Clemente at Lowers in my hometown. Like, no matter what was going to happen, I wanted to make sure I enjoyed it. And then we also kind of looked at like both sides. Like, okay, what if I do win, and what if I do lose? Like, what kind of person am I going to show up as? And when we ran through like how would I be if I lost, I was kind of just I just really wanted to, you know, be like graceful and still like show my love for everyone that supported me, and kind of like, or like run through what it would feel like if I did lose. And I also ran through what it'd feel like if it won. But I feel like that preparation of like playing out both sides, so I was like ready for any outcome. And going into it, I wasn't really that nervous, actually. Like the morning, I was for sure had some nerves going, like when I was at home. But when I was at the event and I had my headphones on, and I was getting ready, like I wasn't nervous. I was really excited and like couldn't wait to just get out there and just put on my best performance. And I felt like I did, and kind of like the waves that I got didn't really match the waves the other guy got, Ethan, and I ended up losing, but I was still like super happy with the way the whole thing went down. And yeah, totally believe like everything happens for a reason, and you know, it just wasn't my day that day, and you know, the story continues.
That's good. Almost like a goal. You have a goal to win, but also if it doesn't go your way, what's your goal? Like, do you think you enjoyed the process?
Oh, I totally enjoyed it, 100%. Like, if I hadn't kind of played through like what it would feel like to lose, like maybe I would have been way more bummed after, and the rest of that day I could have just been like Debbie Downer. But instead, I was like, all my friends came over to my house. We went out that night, had a good time, and yeah, just psyched.
I saw Jeremy Carter driving down my street to your house that night. They were pretty fired up. Yeah. So, okay, and going on that, because I know there's a lot of parents in here. We've been kind of bringing the kids in here. But so here's kind of the backstory on that too. Here's honest confession. During your, I missed your heat. I was walking down the trail, watching on my phone. I went to a family soccer game in the morning. Anyways, I was walking down the beach, and I didn't even know my service had cut on my phone. I look, and I see a sea of red walking back. I'm like, oh no, right? And they're like, everyone's like, oh, Griff lost. We're leaving. And I mean, it's like this army leaving. I'm like, I'm gonna go down and watch a thing. So I go back, and now there's all this room on the beach, right? Mayor left, right? We're all down there, and I look back and I see Mitch. So this is for the Surf Dads. And he's sitting back there with Masaki. I'm like, Mitch. He's like, oh, this is so nice. We have all the room now. I'm like, Mitch, what do you think? I mean, your son just lost. He's like, oh, he's like, I learned the NSSA. I'm just going to sit back and watch the rest of the contest. And we just sat back and, you know, and we were talking about which guys we were going for, who we wanted to win. You know, and look, I've coached the national champion surf team for going on 20 years. I've seen a lot of dads over the years, right? And I appreciate like that unbridled passion, right? But I have learned, I think part of the reason why you guys are succeeding is your parents have also learned to manage themselves. And so anyways, we sat back, Mitch and I and Masaki, and we gave scores, and we oh no, that's too high, that's too low. We were calling ours before, and it was just like sitting at a Shortcliffe middle school surf contest, enjoying it after your son lost out of their heat. So that was really the big takeaway for me out of that story as a parent. But let's move a little bit. From the show of hands, the kids surf team, who's written in a journal? Who's written out some of their things? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I like it.
Solid.
Did anyone bring their journals tonight? Who got their Cola Brothers journals? Yeah. So that, hey, look at the cover of that journal. That journal has a real important story for San Clemente. The picture on the front of that journal was painted by my best friend and a great friend of the Colapinchos who worked us at the surf camp for years, who had some real tough circumstances in his life, mental illness, mental challenges, and he ended up kind of self-destructing and dying. And so you guys have taken that image, it also hangs in my classroom, and created it into something that could be used for a positive. Same, just like we talked about earlier, taking a potential positive, negative thing and turn it into a positive. I asked Griffin, I asked you maybe to pick something to share, but maybe let's chime in, let's talk about the journals, how that's working, what you write, how you use it, and then we'll wrap it up, let the kids get some signatures and ask one-on-one questions.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. First off, on the journals, I feel like why journaling is so healthy is because when sometimes we can get like these looped thoughts in our mind that just won't go away, and you think you like get rid of them, and then they'll just keep coming back, and it just totally takes you out of the present moment. And with surfing and in surf contests, you can't have that. You have to be in the present moment in order to surf well, compete well, and stay focused. So that's why we journal. And when we just write, all you have to do is kind of like sit with yourself in silence and think about what thought it is that's going on in your head, and write it down. And once you see it written down, it's kind of like you faced it. You see it right there on paper, and it kind of, you just completely take the power away from it, and that feels really, really good. So. Yeah, I'm going to share a little journal entry with you guys. This was from this last season on tour. This was actually at the wave pool contest that I ended up winning. And funny enough, most of these contests that I've done my best at or end up winning seem to be like the most mentally challenging contests. Like I just feel super like down for some reason. But I think what makes the difference is kind of facing those downs, those internal battles, and once you conquer yourself, you gain this like crazy amount of confidence from it. And this is kind of like one of those moments, right, where I was able to get it out onto paper. So tonight I kind of had an emotional breakdown. I didn't surf the way I would have liked. I'm overthinking it. I realized I just need to go off instinct. The wave is always changing for some reason. I got the feeling I'm not good enough. Tommy's my coach. Tommy was nitpicking me on the right, and it hurt my ego. I started to beat myself up. I got into the pain body and started feeding on bad thoughts and feelings. I could feel myself craving bad feelings. It must be something from my childhood. I have the choice to stop this. I forgive myself for how I acted tonight. Just be the observer and stay present if something like this arises again. This does not serve me. Whatever these feelings are, it's all happening for a reason. This is making me stronger. Be present in the process.
Wonderful words. Let's just go down the line, because you guys have also overcome, you've accomplished something incredible, 3 of you, and also kind of addressing the middle school. I think the thoughts that you felt, when you're 11, 12, 13, they're even more intense probably.
Journaling's so great because it's like you can keep track of the whole year and go back on it and just look how much you've grown, because, that's what I do. I've had a couple of journals, and I go back and I read from last year, and I'm like, wow, I was in that mind space last year, and look where I am now. So it's like you can go back and read how far you've came from, and I think just writing it out and getting it out of your head to just put it on paper is just so important when you're kind of stuck up top in your head.
Insight. Cade?
Yeah. I didn't really start journaling until I had like a back injury last year, which I ended up having surgery on, but I filled up an entire journal throughout the whole time. And that right now is like insane to look back at, because like I see like all the like thoughts I was having, and I was like, whoa, like, I was like pretty dark. But yeah, no, it's really cool to look back at now and like see where I was able to like come from that, you know, like from such a dark place.
Yeah, like a pattern I'm seeing here is like, for example, Griff just shared like his most mentally challenging contests are usually ones he ends up winning. Cade, right, had a pretty good career. I mean, in middle school, it was like, oh no, I got Cade in my heat, so gnarly. And then he goes from his biggest challenge ever, and he had a fair, qualifying series career. And then you went from this massive, almost like insurmountable, you broke your back, right?
Yeah, it was like a disc problem.
But still, right? You went from that, your toughest, to your greatest accomplishment of your professional surfing career, right? Cole, what do you want to add in on this? Let's take it from the Cheetah Man.
Yeah, I'll kind of just touch on what all the boys said. The journal is just so amazing just to write everything down on, because whatever's in your head is just going to stay in your head if you don't get it out or talk to people or write it down. So that was my biggest learning experience from it, is just every day I just write what's in my head. That way I can move on or like see what I want to talk about and stuff. And yeah, and just writing the goals every day, whether it's training or surfing or hanging out with the boys, just simple stuff that you can check off the list and have fun. But yeah, I think like what you touched on as well too is like sometimes the most challenging events or times are when it brings the best out of you. Like Sydney, for me, example, like the day before the event started, my back just seized up on me and I couldn't walk for like a whole day pretty much. And then I didn't surf all the way up until like 30 minutes before my first heat, not even knowing if I was going to be able to compete. But that kind of like simplified everything in my head, because I was writing the whole time just saying, hey, if I can just surf my heat, I'll be happy. I wasn't even looking like, oh, I'm going to win the event. I was just like, hey, if I can be in the jersey, like I'll just be stoked. And kind of just simplifying everything and writing it down and just, yeah, taking it step by step, being present in the moment.
Incredible. All right. I think the kids might have some questions, but I think we'll ask those one-on-one. So at this point, anything else, Mitch, you want to add in here? These guys are good, huh? Round of applause for our male surfers.
Left-handed. Okay, one. Go right. Go one, bring on two, we three. Let's start with three. No, you're on. You're a man. Okay, buddy, get in there. Okay, this will work. Okay, ready? Okay, ready? One. Whoa, hold on. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Take on the dog. Ready? Okay, count it. Hang on, ready? Yeah. What's this, Gary? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, I'm gonna call this. Oh, yeah. Okay, ready? All right, now see, visualize it. Can you see yourself winning? Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, yeah.
Come on, Griffin! Oh, no! Griffin! Let's go, Griffin! Let's
Quick shotguns.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You guys are so good. Can't wait to watch you guys.